Hi everyone, it's Vic and I'm so glad you're here with me today. We're going to lean into something that, if we're being really honest with ourselves, touches so many of our lives. I'm talking about overthinking. It's that relentless inner narrator, the one who replays conversations on a loop, who conjures up a dozen worst-case scenarios before breakfast, and who constantly whispers those heavy questions. What if I'd said something different? Why did I do that? Should I have known better? It's exhausting, isn't it? The tricky thing about overthinking is that it often masquerades as problem solving. We tell ourselves we're just being thorough, preparing for every eventuality. But the truth? Overthinking rarely leads to clarity or solutions. Instead, it acts like an amplifier for our anxieties, turning small worries into monumental fears. It drains our precious energy, making it harder to show up in our lives. It clouds our judgment, making decisions feel impossible. And perhaps most insidiously, it keeps us stuck, holding us back from taking the very actions that could bring us peace or move us forward. So today we're going to get curious about this overthinking loop. We're going to explore what might be fueling it, not from a place of blame, but from a place of understanding and self-compassion. And more importantly, we're going to talk about tangible, heartfelt ways to interrupt that cycle, to quiet the noise, and to reclaim our mental space. We're going to learn how to stop the overthinking loop so we can live with more intention and joy. The first step in breaking free from the overthinking loop is to become aware of it. It's about shining a light into those often dim corners of our minds where these thought patterns take root. This isn't about judgment, it's about gentle, honest observation. It takes bravery to pause amidst the mental storm and acknowledge, wow, I'm really caught in something here. This awareness is our entry point, the moment we decide to stop being passively swept away by our thoughts and start engaging with them differently. So, how do we cultivate this awareness? It starts by learning to distinguish between productive, reflective thinking and the spiraling, repetitive nature of overthinking. A powerful question to ask yourself in these moments is, am I truly thinking right now, exploring new angles and seeking clarity, or am I just overthinking, replaying the same script? This simple act of questioning can create just enough space to see the pattern for what it is. Once we've cultivated that initial awareness, the next powerful strategy is to give our thoughts a time limit. We set boundaries in so many other areas of our lives to protect our time and energy. Why not set loving, firm boundaries with our own tendency to ruminate? When you find yourself caught in an overthinking spiral, you can consciously decide, okay, I'm going to allow myself to think about this specific issue for the next 10 minutes. I'll set a timer. During that dedicated time, you can let your mind explore the what-ifs and concerns. But when that timer goes off, you make a commitment to shift your focus, to consciously move on to something else. This isn't about suppressing thoughts or denying your feelings, it's about managing your engagement with them. By setting a time limit, we're taking back the reins. We're acknowledging the thought or worry, giving it a designated space, but also affirming that it doesn't get to dictate our entire experience. So often, the engine of overthinking is fueled by fear. Fear of making the wrong decision, fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of the unknown. We get stuck in our heads analyzing every possible angle, trying to predict every conceivable outcome because we're afraid to step into the arena and take action. But here's a truth I've come to believe deeply. Action, even small, imperfect action, is one of the most powerful antidotes to the paralysis of overthinking. Overthinking thrives in the vacuum of inaction. When we're passive, our thoughts grow larger, more ominous, more complex. This is that classic paralysis by analysis, where the sheer volume of our thoughts prevents us from doing anything at all. The loop feeds itself. We overthink because we're afraid to act, and our inaction gives us even more to overthink. This is where the power of taking one small step comes in. Notice I said small. The goal is simply to interrupt the inertia. A truly game-changing question we can ask ourselves when we're caught in the grip of overthinking is this: is this something I actually have control over right now? So much of our mental anguish comes from us wrestling with things that are outside of our direct influence. It takes a profound act of courage and self-awareness to look a worry squarely in the face and admit, this particular piece, I can't change it. When we pour our precious mental and emotional energy into worrying about things we cannot control, other people's reactions, past events, future uncertainties, we are essentially draining our own batteries for no productive outcome. The shift then is to consciously redirect our focus from what we cannot control to what we can control. And what can we almost always control? Our responses, our actions, our efforts, our attitude, where we choose to place our attention. This shift is about moving from a passive state of worry to an active state of engagement with our own agency. This deliberate pivot in focus can, at times, feel almost instantaneous in its ability to quiet the overthinking loop. Another profound practice that can help us disengage from the relentless churn of overthinking is mindfulness, or meditation. At its heart, mindfulness is simply about paying attention to the present moment, on purpose, without judgment. It's a practical, learnable skill that helps us to quiet the internal noise, to find a little bit of stillness amidst the chaos that our minds can sometimes create. It's about anchoring ourselves, even for a few moments, in the here and now. Overthinking rarely lives in the present. It's almost always rooted in replaying the past or catastrophizing about the future. The present moment, this very breath you're taking right now, is often a place of relative calm. Mindfulness gently guides our attention back to this present reality, reminding us that right here, right now, we are okay. It's a way of stepping off the hamster wheel of past grievances and future fears. And you don't need hours to practice this. Even 5 minutes of dedicated mindfulness can make a difference. So, here's the truth, a truth I hold on to with all my heart. Your mind is an incredibly powerful, wonderfully complex thing, but you, dear friend, are in charge. You are the one who gets to decide how you engage with your thoughts. Overthinking, as pervasive and stubborn as it can feel, is ultimately a habit, a well-worn neural pathway. And the good news, the really hopeful news, is that habits, even the deeply ingrained ones, can be changed. It takes intention, it takes practice, and it certainly takes a whole lot of courage and self-compassion. The journey to quiet that inner turmoil begins with awareness, with that brave first step of noticing the loop. Then, we practice the strategies we've talked about, giving our thoughts a compassionate time limit, daring to take small, imperfect actions, consciously focusing on what we can truly control, and gently anchoring ourselves in the present moment through mindfulness. You deserve to live a life that isn't constantly overshadowed by the what-ifs and should-haves. You've got this. Thanks for listening and for being on this journey with me.